It's a hot day and you are walking randomly around. Then, you start noticing a new Pokemon game lying in the shelf. You didn't touch the genre for ages, but out of curiosity and nostalgia, you buy the game and start it at home. But something's different. A lot is different now. Your Charizard uses strange moves, and there are new weather conditions. The enemy's Blastoise uses weird items and new abilities you have never seen. What happened? Well, as simple as the game once was, over the past years it changed dramatically. So, how complex is Pokemon? Let's start at the beginning, when your Pokemon is just an egg. There are 4 major categories that I would describe a Pokemon with: the type, the moves, the abilities, and the stats. There are also other factors to consider, but that will have to wait. Typing. The type is the first thing you think about when you see a Pokemon. And in the last couple of years, it didn't change that much. There are only 2 instances where new types were introduced in the main series. 3 if you count the Stellar type. But that's not the problem here. How types work with each other has been changed over the years. If you look at the Steel type, you notice it has resisted the Dark and Ghost types in the past. This changed with the 6th generation. Probably because the Steel type would have been too strong with the introduction of the Fairy type and all of its resistances. So if you're confused about why some types don't resist others anymore, just look at the type chart again and freshen up your memory. Here, if you want to take a quick look. I myself didn't even know that poison used to be effective against itself. Not only did the effectiveness of the types change, but the typing of Pokemon did as well. With the introduction of new types, old Pokemon like Magneton gained another type, while other Pokemon like Clefairy completely changed their typing. Now, you have a Pokemon with a good type. What comes next? Moveset. After looking at the type, you normally check the moves a Pokemon has. This is a rather complicated process. There are around 934 moves in the mainline games. Your average Pokemon can't learn every move. There are some exceptions. But normally, it learns around 60 different moves. It's more manageable now. But the moves you choose will have to depend on the stats and abilities your Pokemon has, which can differ. There are moves that can only be learned through breeding, the so-called egg moves. Players can teach Pokemon egg moves by breeding a male Pokemon of one species with a female of a different species. If the male Pokemon knows a valid egg move at the time of breeding, Pokemon that come from eggs produced from that breeding session will automatically know the move. As you can see, not only choosing your move, but also obtaining it is difficult. Some moves can only be learned through TMs, while other moves can't be learned anymore throughout newer generations. There are even Pokemon that possess moves because of special events. With the perfect moveset for your Pokemon, let us take a look at the abilities. There are around 310 abilities in the mainline games, and every Pokemon has at least one ability. It ranges from being completely useless to completely broken. A Caterpie with the ability Runaway isn't even comparable to Incineroar with the ability Intimidate, which formed a meta around itself. Some Pokemon have the luck to be blessed with 2 or even 3 abilities. Sadly for you, most of the time, the best ability for a Pokemon is its hidden ability. To get a hidden ability, there are many ways, different in each Pokemon game. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you have to do Terra raid battles. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, it was the Max raid battle. There's also the hidden patch item, which changes the ability of your Pokemon to its hidden ability. As you already know, abilities differ in importance, but there are some Pokemon that depend solely on their ability. Shedinja is the prime example. Its ability Wonder Guard prevents any damage from attacks that are not super effective, meaning it can only get damaged through super effective damaging moves or indirect damage like weather or status conditions. But to balance it out, it only has 1 HP, meaning once it gets hit, it's over. As you see, the ability can be the core mechanic of a Pokémon defining it. Or it's just useless like Caterpie's Run Away. Hi! This video took me much more time to make than the last one I made. So I hope you leave a like and a sub. It would really help me out a lot. Back to the video. Only one thing is missing now. The stats. The stats of a Pokémon are the most confusing part about Pokémon because there's so much to pay attention to. Every Pokémon has base stats. Tatsugiri, as an example, has this stat pool, with its special attack being the highest. The stat total is calculated with a Pokémon having a neutral nature, no EVs and IVs, as well as being level 50. The nature of a Pokémon does increase one stat by 10% and decrease another by 10% too. If it's the same stat, it becomes neutral, making zero difference. The EVs and IVs are a bit more complicated, but let's imagine this. EV, or effort value, raises your stats by defeating other Pokémon, or taking in some drugs. If you defeat a Magikarp, which highest stat is speed, your Pokémon gains effort values in its speed, increasing it. There's a maximum of 510 EV points you can distribute, while one stat can only have a maximum of 252 points in total. If you calculate right, you notice there are still 6 points you can distribute, so don't forget them. The IVs, or individual values, are the DNA of a Pokémon. They are decided right at birth and can only be changed through a bottle cap. A stat has a range from 0 to 31 IV stats. Optimally, a Pokémon has 31 IVs in every stat. One IV point gives a Pokémon one stat point in its respective stat, while 4 EV points give a Pokémon one stat point in its respective stat. So if we mix all that together and power up Tatsugiri, its special attack stat differs by 69 points, which is more than half the original power. With all these different factors to think about, there can't be more, right? Well, there's a fifth factor we didn't talk about. The held items. Every Pokémon can hold one item, but the variety of items is vast. There are items which recover health every turn, or increase one stat by 50%, and in exchange lock the Pokémon in one attack. Some items only work on certain Pokémon like the Soul Dew, while others serve to assist a Pokémon's stats. There are also the berries, which can half the damage of every type's attack, or restore power points, cure status conditions, and even raise stats. They can literally do anything. The amount of possibilities is overwhelming, and adds even more to the already scuffed game. But now we know everything there is, right? Well, there is one thing we still need to talk about. The features. Since the 6th generation, the Pokémon Company always brings a new feature into the games. Z Crystals, Dynamax, Terastallization, and the best of them all, Mega Evolutions. While Z Crystals and Mega Stones are held items and only bring a few new variables to the game, Dynamax and Terastallization completely change the game. Dynamax lets you double your Pokémon's HP for 3 rounds, and all of its attacks get stronger and have new effects. Terastallization changes your Pokémon's type while still maintaining stab from the original typing. As you can see, there are so many things you have to pay attention to. I myself play Pokémon for more than 15 years now, and still don't know everything that comes to this game. And there are so much more things I haven't included here, like double or triple battles and all the variations of them, or all the different effects a move can have. So to conclude the question in the beginning, is Pokémon complex? Well, only if you play competitive. For a normal playthrough of the game, you don't need to think about everything I talked about in this video. Just catch all the Pokémon you like and have fun. But what do you think? Is Pokémon really that complex? Or am I just exaggerating? Write it in the comments, and while you're at it, leave a like and a sub. It would help me out a lot. Have a nice one. Bye-bye. Do you want to see the Giga Chad Tatsugiri again? Sure, why not?